Ben and Eva come to the conclusion that the only thing they can do is trust that Will keeps his distance from Megan, completely unaware that he has already gone to visit her at her new apartment. Their hopes rest on him making the right choices, even though the reality is very different from what they believe. At the same time, Maggie decides that waiting around is no longer an option and chooses to take matters into her own hands. Determined to put an end to the situation, she tracks Megan down and confronts her face to face, issuing a firm warning to stay away. The big question, however, is how Megan will respond when faced with Maggie's intense anger and refusal to back down. Meanwhile, tensions rise in prison as Debbie accuses a correctional officer of taking her personal diary without permission. Concerned that Debbie's actions could negatively affect her chances of securing an appeal, Lou deliberately provokes another inmate, sparking a physical altercation to divert attention and shift focus away from the accusation. Elsewhere, George is left stunned when he spots Adam and Alya exiting the pub alongside Damian Ripley, who has apparently agreed to give evidence against him. Realizing the seriousness of the situation, George desperately pleads with them to reconsider and drop the case, but his attempts fall on deaf ears as they remain determined to proceed. In another storyline, a hurt and frustrated Bethany opens up to Jodie, revealing that Ethan failed to show up for their planned date and then had the nerve to blame her by claiming she had canceled. Although Bethany is clearly upset, Jodie only pretends to be supportive, hiding her true feelings behind a facade of sympathy. Later on, Bernie is delighted when Dev stops by and suggests taking her out for a meal so she can take her mind off Mal. Excited by the invitation, she eagerly agrees, and the two head out together for the evening. However, unknown to them, Mal quietly observes from a distance, keeping a watchful eye on their movements. Finally, Tim confesses to Sally and Steve that he hasn't received any updates or contact from Trisha. In response, Sally suggests that Trisha is likely keeping a low profile because she knows she is at fault and wants to avoid facing the consequences of her actions. Coronation Street's Maggie is determined to destroy Megan, as a shocking DNA revelation sends shockwaves through her family. It has now been 5 months since the fierce and outspoken Maggie Driscoll, the straight-talking mother-in-law of much-loved Eva Price, first arrived on Coronation Street. In that relatively short time, she has made a powerful impression, quickly establishing herself as someone who refuses to be intimidated. Actress Pauline McLynn, who portrays the current Rover's Return landlady, has suggested that Maggie may have finally encountered an opponent who can match her strength and determination. Recently, Maggie's family were left deeply shaken after discovering that her 16-year-old grandson Will had been manipulated and groomed by his older athletics coach, Megan Walsh. The revelation has sparked outrage, and in the upcoming episodes, tensions reach boiling point as Maggie confronts Megan directly, making it absolutely clear that she is not welcome anywhere near her family. Pauline, who is 63, explains that Maggie's efforts to push a now-pregnant Megan out of their lives could have serious consequences, especially as accusations of assault emerge and the situation escalates into open conflict. According to Pauline, Maggie is someone who prefers action over patience. While there is an ongoing police matter regarding the grooming of her grandson, Maggie believes that the legal system operates far too slowly and is constrained by rules she has no intention of following. In contrast to the careful and measured approach required by authorities, Maggie takes a far more forceful route. She convinces herself that the best solution is to track Megan down personally and issue a firm warning, regardless of the risks involved. When Megan ultimately reports Maggie to the police, accusing her of assault, Maggie remains completely unfazed and refuses to abandon her mission. She flatly denies any wrongdoing and dismisses the complaint as an overreaction, viewing it as a trivial matter that does not deserve serious attention. To Maggie, it was nothing more than a minor scuffle that got slightly out of hand, and she sees no reason why it should be blown out of proportion. Backing down simply isn't in her nature, and she shows no intention of changing course. Pauline highlights that Maggie and Megan are surprisingly similar in their determination, which sets the stage for intense and dramatic confrontations. Megan is equally relentless, willing to go to great lengths to achieve her goals, and possesses a talent for manipulation that rivals Maggie's own. This creates a compelling dynamic as two equally strong-willed individuals clash head-on. At the same time, the storyline emphasizes Maggie's fierce loyalty to her family, showing that she is prepared to do whatever it takes to protect them and keep them safe. Since the arrival of the Driscoll family last October, they have been central to a number of major and dramatic plot twists. These include Will's violent attack on Megan's boyfriend Daniel Osborne, as well as the shocking revelation surrounding the death of Maggie's late husband. In a flashback episode, viewers learned that Maggie herself was responsible for his death. Additionally, a recent flash-forward scene has hinted that Maggie could meet a deadly end in an upcoming murder storyline, leaving her future uncertain. As if that were not enough, another major secret is looming over the family and is set to cause further upheaval. Maggie continues to conceal the truth about the biological father of her son, Ben Driscoll. It has recently been revealed that Maggie had an affair many years ago with Jim McDonald, a well-known figure on the street. Following Jim's death, it will soon come to light that he is actually Ben's real father. With Ben still unaware of this truth and Maggie choosing to keep it hidden, the stage is set for significant emotional fallout. Pauline suggests that this revelation is like a ticking time bomb waiting to explode. She reflects on Maggie's past, noting that her circumstances as a young mother in a different era may explain why the relationship was never publicly acknowledged. Despite this, Ben has already made certain comments that have struck a nerve, hinting that the truth is closer to the surface than Maggie would like. According to Pauline, the turmoil currently unfolding is only the beginning, with even more drama expected in the future. Beyond the secrets, Pauline expresses excitement about viewers seeing a more cunning and calculating side of Maggie as she works to protect Will from Megan's influence. She reveals that Maggie uncovers Megan's whereabouts through questionable means and goes to great lengths to track her down. Determined to resolve the situation, Maggie confronts Megan directly, leading to explosive arguments and even physical altercations. She is not afraid to get involved in a fight if it means achieving her objective. Even when her initial attempt to drive Megan away proves unsuccessful and she is warned to stay away, Maggie refuses to give up. Instead, Megan's refusal to leave only fuels her determination to act again. Pauline hints that Maggie will continue to pursue the matter relentlessly, making repeated efforts until she gets the result she wants. And even if Megan tries to disappear, Maggie has her own resourceful ways of locating people, proving that she is not someone who can be easily stopped once she has set her mind on something. Coronation Street unveils a significant twist in Theo's storyline in an early ITVX episode. The show shifts the direction of Theo Silverton and Todd Grimshaw's relationship tonight, as George Shuttleworth strongly disapproves of them getting back together. Over the past few months, Theo has managed to hide his controlling and abusive tendencies by winning over Todd's friends and family with his charm. However, George and his partner Christina Boyd have begun to sense that something isn't quite right beneath the surface. In Tuesday's episode, Theo makes a bold gesture by turning up at Todd's workplace, announcing that they've reunited and cheerfully bringing coffee for everyone. George reacts with clear unease upon hearing the news. Although he isn't aware of everything that happened behind closed doors, he knows their relationship had become unhealthy before they split. During a private conversation with Todd, a concerned George reminds him not to forget the reasons they ended things, pointing out that Todd had admitted he was struggling and had been unhappy for quite some time. He also suggests that Theo had a negative impact on him, leaving Todd drained and not his usual self. Later, back at the flat, Todd shares George's concerns with Theo. Understanding that George's approval could be important, Theo makes an effort to win him over by joining him and Christina for lunch at the bistro, assuring them that things will be different this time around. Although George seems to accept Theo's explanation on the surface, he later admits to Christina in private that he isn't convinced by Theo's act. George explains that they may need to pretend to be supportive for now, as openly opposing Theo could risk pushing Todd further away. He reflects on how Todd had already reacted badly when the subject was raised earlier, suggesting that being too critical might backfire. Instead, George believes the best approach is to wait and hope Todd eventually realizes the truth on his own. As George continues to quietly monitor the situation, it raises the question of whether he could ultimately play a key role in exposing Theo and bringing about his downfall. Coronation Street airs on weeknights at 8:30 p.m. on ITV1 and is also available for streaming on ITVX.